Could you explain the process of getting PR visa? How difficult was it and how did you do it?
Right. So in Japan,
I don't need to go to the immigration anymore. Now I need to go there in 5 years, like to renew the resident card. But like it's not every year anymore.
Once we knew that we could get permanent residency, or at least thought we could, it meant a sense of security and being able to be here on our own. Like right now, nobody can stop us.
I actually like living here, so I think I'll probably be here long term as well. If you have PR, it's a lot easier to get a house loan and stuff like that.
I initially thought there's only two ways to get it. You know, you marry someone who's Japanese or you live here for 10 years. But
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Takashi. So today I'm going to interview people who have permanent residency visa in Japan. How did you get it? Okay, let's get started. Please introduce yourself.
hi, my name is Victoria, and I'm originally from Ukraine, and I live in Japan for 14 years now. Actually, today is my 14th anniversary, and I get my permit residence in Japan 2 years ago, so basically after 12 years.
My name's Katie, and this is Eric. And we're married. We've lived in Japan since 2011, so about like 13 years.
From States.
Yes, we're from Virginia,
When did you get permanent residency visa in Japan?
2021,
So
right in the middle of COVID.
immediately 10 years after we came to Japan, basically.
I'm Kevin. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Brazil, and I'm living in Japan for 6 years and a half straight. I got my PR visa 3 years ago.
My name is Josh. I'm from the US, and I've been living in Japan for about 5.5 years.
my name's Tokuyu, and I'm from Canada, and I moved to Japan about 2.5 years ago. I got PR here after living here for 2 years, so I just got it this year.
What initially motivated you to get PR visa?
I initially came to Japan on a work visa, but there's a restriction when you're here on a work visa, and that is you gotta work. But if you lose your job in Japan, you don't just lose your income, you lose everything. So you lose the friends you've made here, you lose the apartment you set up, all the dreams and aspirations you have of your future in Japan. You have to uproot everything and go back to your home country.
Once we knew that we could get permanent residency, or at least thought we could, it meant a sense of security and being able to be here on our own. Like right now, nobody can stop us from like doing the jobs that we want to do or things like that. It opens up windows and it makes you feel secure in being in Japan for a long time.
I didn't want to be like limited on like what categories of work that I could do. I've been living here quite a long time, and I actually like living here, so I think I'll probably be here long term as well. So I was thinking about maybe buying a house, and if you have PR, it's a lot easier to get a house loan and stuff like that. If you're able to do side work also, your category of side work normally is limited by whatever visa you have, right? So like you can do side work in the same category, but if you want to do something else, you have to get permission for that.
Right.
Or like have PR, you don't have to worry about that at all.
The first reason, I know that one day I want to go back home. And in order for me to go back and come back here to Japan, it's easier to have stable documents, not like working visa. So it was one of the reasons. And second reason, when you have a permit residency, it's actually easier for you to live in Japan because you can get a loan from the bank, the same as the Japanese people.
Okay.
Or if you want to start your own business, for example, you can just do it and you don't worry about the sponsor, and it's just so much easier.
I don't need to go to the immigration anymore. And I hate that place because like they ask like a lot of papers like that you need to take every year, and every year is the same. People working there, it's only foreigners who go there, but people there cannot speak English. In Japan, everywhere that you go, people are polite with you, right? But like when you were in the immigration, people always treat you bad. Even if you were speaking Japanese, like they treat you like you're disturbing them. And it's the only place here in Japan that I feel that.
Could you explain the process of getting PR visa?
My case was based on years of living and working in Japan. So I get my permit residence visa, as I mentioned, after 12 years of Japan. And it took me like basically not that difficult, but actually it was some challenges because when you start to apply for documents, you kind of realize, oh, some documents you didn't have, or for example, you need to pay taxes and pension, right? But as a not Japanese, sometimes you don't know that, oh, actually, when you change your job, you still need to pay. And plus, just collecting all the documents and waiting, it's a long as well.
I went and collected most of the documents, or if not all the documents that I would have required by myself, but I was a little bit unsure because I've never tried to apply before, and like I'm doing the HSP route, so it could be rejected. At the time I applied, they said it would only take like 6 months, But so many people are actually applying that now it's gotten like the timeline has gotten longer and longer. And I actually only heard back after about 12 months. And then after 12 months, they sent me something in the mail saying, hey, we want updated tax information. I sent that back and then it was another month and I got it.
I initially thought there's only 2 ways to get it. You know, you marry someone who's Japanese or you live here for 10 years. But after I was here for 1 year, my friend from Canada actually told me there's a point system on how to get PR. And if you have enough points, if you have 70 points, you can get PR after 3 years in Japan. And if you have 80 points, you can get it after 1 year. Yeah, so that's what I did. And I just had 80 points exactly. So I was able to get it after just being here for about 1.5 years at that point.
We didn't have that route to us. We had to do the wait 10-year route, and then we were able to apply. So this is what worked for us.
My father, he got married with a Japanese dissident, like a Nikkei. Because of him, I got my visa.
So it was easy, kind of.
Yeah, it was really easy.
You didn't hire anyone to get PR visa?
No, I didn't need to.
Using a lawyer, while slightly expensive, it's just so much less stress
Yes.
to deal
It
with.
made it so easy that she came to our apartment, told us the things we needed to show. They had to take pictures of our toothbrushes to show that we had 2 toothbrushes in the house.
that we
And
lived together.
they were really showing our relationship. We had to present them with pictures of us from the past, which was nice as a reminiscing thing, but like they needed to see that proof. And she showed us like all the things that we needed to do and took care of a lot of paperwork that would have been a struggle if we'd done it on our own.
It was easier, but you still need to collect all the documents by yourself, so they don't do that for you. And plus, you need to have a sponsor, so guarantor basically, who will give a lot of documents from their side, because it's supposed to be a Japanese person or it's supposed to be a person who has a permit residence, basically. So you need to have very close relationship with that person as well.
They're expensive. It was like about like $1,000, but they'll help you with everything. Like you can ask whatever questions you have about PR. They'll tell you what forms to have. They'll help you collect some of the forms, like some of the tax forms from City Hall, and then they'll actually submit it to immigration.
You basically just give them the documentation, then they take it to the immigration office for you on your behalf, which they also have to have like your residence card and your passport. No news is good news when it comes to PR. If you hear back quickly, it's usually because something like you didn't have enough information or like you didn't provide a document that was needed or something. But if you don't hear back, usually like by the time you finally do hear back, it's either like, oh, we just need like updated tax document or something like that. And then at the next time you hear back, it's an approval.
What was the difficult part of getting PR visa? Like, what was the hardest part that you would say?
I mean, the hardest part is just knowing about it, right? Because like I didn't know until I'd lived here for 1 year. And then the whole process itself is so poorly known. Knowing about it and then how to calculate your points, I actually wasted 6 months because I didn't think I had enough points initially. Because there's weird ways that you can get extra points. And then how you apply, like who do you apply to? And then the rules for keeping PR, like it's so ambiguous.
Like, I think that's true. I think people live in Japan, but they don't really think the PR visa is only for like expats who live in here 10 years, 20 years, and then like that, yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah. Like, I didn't even think about it. I was like, hey, you know, I have to be here for at least 10 years. Like, let's forget about it for now.
Many foreigners don't know the rules of pension or like tax situation. So I didn't know that some of my pension was not paid just because I was changing a job and I have like gap between like 2 weeks between jobs. And I didn't know that my previous company didn't pay for it. And my new company obviously didn't pay for it yet. And when I check Nankin, which is you like probably know, it's a pension system, I realized, so I changed jobs 3 times. So every time when I change a job, I had like almost 4 months like gap, like between actually getting like paying pension. So it was a big problem. And the biggest problem with the pension, you can't pay it later after so many years. So it was in the beginning of my life in Japan.
So our story is a little weird. We had a difficulty that we created. In 2017 and 18, we traveled to Europe. And at that time, we went to the City Hall and we told City Hall we're going to be leaving. So they took
We were gone for like 6 months.
Yes. So they took our address off of our
registration.
And on January 1st, if you don't have an address, it looks as if you aren't here. So when we went to apply for permanent residency, we kept meeting lawyers and talking to lawyers who were going to help us. And they're like, that's totally a problem. We can't do anything for you. And then we finally found a lawyer that was like, hey, I'll work it out. Let's see if we can do this. I'll submit it for you. And if it doesn't work at that time, I'll resubmit it for you for free when it comes to when you can actually apply.
The point being, you have to have 10 years of uninterrupted residency in Japan to apply for the visa, the permanent residency route that we were using.
Yeah.
And because of that gap, it made it ambiguous on whether or not it was going to work. But she made it work, and it worked on the first try.
Our lawyer was amazing.
Like the people in this video, do you want not just to visit Japan or stay for 1 year or 2, but build your life here? Maybe by getting married or having kids or even retiring. If there's an even small chance of that, there's one thing you should start right away: learning Japanese. Because if you want to live in Japan for a long time, learning the language is a must. But how can you learn Japanese efficiently? It's definitely much faster if you learn with a professional, like Japanese native tutor. And I recommend Preply. With over 2,000 Japanese tutors, you can find the perfect teacher for your needs. You can filter by your goals, whether you're preparing for JLPT, need business Japanese, or just want to get better at everyday conversation. Preply has plenty of options. And the best part? You don't have to be in Japan to start learning. With online tutors, you can level up your Japanese from anywhere. So by the time you get here, you'll be already feeling at home. Get 50% off your first lesson on Preply by clicking the link in the description below. Any advice for those who want to get permanent residency in Japan?
I definitely give few advices. So first, have a person who can be your guarantor, because when I have a few friends, again, as I mentioned, when they start application, they told me, oh, but who can be my guarantor? Which is, I didn't have this problem because I just call my friend and say, I need these documents from you. And it was easier. But I would recommend definitely try to have more Japanese friends who can be helpful for you as well. Of course, you just don't wait for them to do something for you, give and take, but this is the main thing, I believe. And lastly, make sure you have very stable job, stable salary. Then make sure you pay all your taxes and pension, because many people actually get rejected based on that.
And straight talk, that's what saved us. The fact that I had paid into my pension and I had continued to work at a Japanese company while we were in Europe, that was what saved us, I think. That we could prove, I still plan to come back here, so here's the proof.
And
so pay your bills and stuff.
Staying at one company for a long time helps a lot. What you want to do is convey a level of stability to the immigration. So having a long time that you work at one company makes it look a lot better. And in our opinion, if you can find a good lawyer, that would be the way to go.
Make sure if you have any outside income, you have to do kakute shinkoku. Make sure you do that, and just keep up to date with all of that stuff, all the paperwork. Make sure you do it, and honestly, study Japanese. It helps a lot. Right. It's way easier to go through the process if you can actually read the Japanese. So
I think everyone who are you asking is answering the same thing, but you need to learn Japanese. If you don't know Japanese, you don't know the real country, the real Japan, there is a lot of things that you only realize here in Japan when you can speak Japanese. You only can get inside a Japanese people's heart when you can speak Japanese, when you can follow the hierarchy and this kind of things. So it's really important.
For the PR points, you get 10 points for N2 proficiency and 15 points for N1 proficiency. That's great. But beyond the points, if you want to get PR in Japan, that means that you want to live here long term. You definitely should get fluent in Japanese, because that'll help you with your career. People who speak English and Japanese are very sought after here. And it'll help you with your social circle. Don't get it twisted. Not everyone in Japan speaks English like Takashi. If you only speak English, you can only interact with 5% of the population here. But if you speak Japanese and English, it's everybody, right? And 5%, that's including foreigners who live here. If you live in a small town, good luck. You're gonna meet one person, if you're lucky, who can speak English.
What did you learn from living in Japan for a long time? What did you learn?
It's hard to answer, because everything that I have inside me was based in Japan, I'm always thinking I'm disturbing someone, or I'm taking the space of someone or something like that. I start to think too much about other people. And when I talk to Japanese people, older people, even if they are only 1 year older than me, I take too much to don't cross the hierarchy. Everyone has friends in the same age, you know, because of the hierarchy. It's hard to get friends when you are like older than or younger, you know.
We went to America for 3 months over the summer, and we really were confronted with the individualism instead of the community. And I think that we've really shed that individualism, which is so true of Americans. Like, this is mine, get out of my lane, I'm doing my thing. This is what I believe, like all of that, the me, my, and I, we've really shed that.
The perspective of somebody who has immigrated to another country differently than I did before. Like, I understand like some of the troubles or difficulties that a person can have when they aren't from that country. And some of that is dealing with visa things and thinking about like when we were on those 1-year visas, having to worry about being tied to your job and things like that. So I just feel like I have maybe more empathy for people that have moved to a country that they're not actually from than I would have before having come here.
I kind of learned perspective from my own country, like what stuff I really didn't like about it and what stuff I did like about it. When I come to another country and live in another culture, right? Obviously, like you're also an outsider in that culture, but like it also gives you perspective on your own country as well. So I found there's actually a lot of stuff that I wasn't really as familiar with, like when I first moved here. You know, I had been here on a few trips first, right? Before actually moving here and deciding to move here. And I knew it would be a different experience. But I would say overall, it was interesting. I've learned a lot of stuff about the culture here. I've learned to be a little bit more introspective about my own culture. Learning multiple languages has been really fun.
Many actually foreigners, they kind of stick to other foreigners as a group. And
Especially Tokyo.
especially Tokyo, but I cannot give advice for everybody who come into Japan or like who just thinking to move, already live here and still have only foreign friends. Try to find Japanese friends. Like, again, I know it's more challenging because culture is very different. So, but it takes time to become very close with Japanese friends. But I definitely will give advice. Try to find Japanese friends because you will find a friends, they will be forever with you. This is one thing. Secondly, when you, as a foreigner, you come here, you can't change Japan. It's very unique. It's very great culture. So you need to adjust. Like, you know, you sometimes it might be weird, like, oh, why do we need to follow all the rules? But Japan is a country where you need to follow rules. And if you're not okay with that, maybe Japan will be not the right country for you.
That it's easy to get isolated. Like, I'm from Canada and it's really far away, right? When you move to Japan, like I was only thinking of the adventure. Like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber in Japan. I'm gonna have a whole life here. It's a cool country. But you're leaving behind your family and the friends that you've made throughout your entire life. And of course you can have phone calls, but you know, it's not the same. Make a real effort to stay in touch with your old friends and family. Like, it's easy to just put off the phone call, but stay in touch because those are the people you've known forever and that you can confide in when you really need them. Really make an effort to make new friends in Japan. Because before I moved here, I never tried to make friends, right? Like in school, like you just naturally meet people, right? You have all these people your age, they speak your language, they're from your culture. But if you were to move to Japan as an adult and you're working here, it's really hard.
Are you gonna live in Japan for good?
For good, forever, I don't know. But we did buy a house a couple of years ago, which means we're going to be here for a while. I can't envision myself moving back to the States. I just don't find myself to be very comfortable when we're there. And I just can't see myself wanting to live there a long time. It's okay to visit, but but on the other hand, I don't know what's going to be like in 20 years or something, you know, what I'm going to think.
I think definitely, like, I see the next 10 years here. And then after 10 years, I can't imagine myself being like, oh, so where are we going to hop to now?
Yeah.
So I kind of do see it super long term.
I love Japan. I love to live in Japan. So for now, I think yes. But sometimes I'm kind of afraid because the Japanese economy is going really like a...
Right. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah,
it's not good. It's going like really bad. So, and Japanese people, like they are changing their mind about a lot of things, but they are still too close mind, you know. So I don't know, like I'm afraid about the Japan's future. I don't know if Japan will be a good country to live in 30 years, I think, because of the economy.
You probably know the political climate is a little shaky right now in the US. So I'm honestly glad I'm living here right now and not having to deal with a lot of that. But long term in the future, like, I don't know, like I honestly could see myself living here at least for a few decades. At absolutely, yeah.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, at least I think I could probably see myself doing that. Beyond that, I don't like it when I retire. I don't know if I am going to retire in Japan or not. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure yet.
I'm not sure if I want to live here forever yet, but for a long time right now. Yeah, indefinitely for now.
Is there any conditions that you need to be in Japan like half of the year, every year?
Like for
the visa? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I thought. Because in Canada, you have to be there at least 2 years of every 5 years that you're there. But in Japan, you don't even need to live here.
It does still expire as long as you come back to Japan and just redo the paperwork, which takes like a couple days. Then your permanent residency gets re-extended, I think, for 10 more years, maybe 7 or 10. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
It's not that difficult.
Yeah, we have a friend who has permanent residency, but he's lived in Sweden for quite a while now, and he had to come back to get it redone. And it wasn't that hard. It took him a couple days.
Okay, anyway, thank you for watching so far. How was it? That was interesting. I really enjoy interviewing people who have lived in Japan for 10 years, 20 years, because the conversation tend to be more informative, more deeper, and I really like them. So if you're one of them, if you live in Japan for a long time, please let me know. Let me interview you. Okay, anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video, click like button, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to follow my Instagram and TikTok. I upload short version of my videos there. And if you have any question that you want me to ask people in Japan, please leave a comment too. See you next time.